your computer.
Yeah, so we get both yours and my video on the YouTube, right? So yeah, it's coming okay actually. It's not too bad. In fact, this is the first time I'm doing this for two people. Seems to be okay. Um, okay, so we're getting an audience. Three people now joining in. Five. Okay, cool. So I think that was the people I was expecting. So five is good. Um, hello, everyone. Those people who've joined us. Let's see who's here. Summer is here from the beautiful snow valleys of Swat. Um, Marina is here. Shahid is here. Hi guys, how's it going? Can you hear us? All okay? Marina is saying hi to you, Achi.
Hello, how are you? So I can't see the comments, so you might have to translate.
Yeah, I'll just read out the comments for you. I know there's a software that allows the YouTube comments to come into this as well, but it's all good. Okay, yeah. So we're getting three people saying yes, they can hear. So all fine, good to go.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, that's all good. Imran Khan. Okay, not the Prime Minister of Pakistan. That's the. It's also here. Hi Imran, how's it going? Okay, good. Uh, so I think more people will be joining. Also, as the messages go out to people that the live stream has started, perhaps more people come. Okay, we got six now. That's all right. Um it's always useful to send a WhatsApp message just to remind people. Oh, okay, up to nine people. Okay, good. Um, so wonderful. Thank you all for coming. Today I've got with me Dr. Achi. He is a brilliant, young, intelligent researcher, academic, marketing professional. Um, Achi has done his PhD in tourism marketing. Is that correct?
It's a destination branding.
Destination branding. Okay, yeah. So it's more focused on destination branding. So yeah, in a broad category, it's tourism and marketing, but more specific to destination branding. Um, and Achi and I, we worked together way back a long time ago at the University of East London. So he was a brilliant young student then, and I think he's a brilliant professor now, working um, in London. Um, can you just give us a little brief about yourself, Achi, before you go ahead?
So I think we started way back around 6-7 years ago. I think we worked together for my masters.
Yes.
And my masters was also related to marketing, destination branding, and he was Dr. Khan was my supervisor for that. And from that, I took over to my PhD. After 2 years' time, I finished my master's, and then I've started my PhD in post-conflict destination branding. And while I was doing my PhD, I taught in an organization called Bloomsbury Institute as a lecturer. And now I'm a senior lecturer in the same organization. And I work for Newcastle University as well, both in marketing discipline and branding and destination branding disciplines. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Wonderful. We've just had Dr. Bilal join in with. I'll see at a later stage if I can get him to come in on Skype as well. Dr. Bilal has got a PhD from Maastricht University in Holland, and he's a specialist in innovations and entrepreneurship. So that's good. Slowly people are coming in, joining us. Um, so Achi's got an interesting presentation set for us. Let me see if I can switch it over to uh, Dr. Achi. I want to make you the main screen in this presentation, so I'll put you up here. There we go, and transition over. So the guys on YouTube, you guys should get this shortly. There is a bit of a lag. I don't know. I think I need to get like a high-end, powerful Mac PC for this. But yeah, I think it's going okay. So you guys can hear us? Yeah, you can hear us. Okay, that's good. You want to switch over to your presentation mode?
Yeah, this is the first time I'm doing this thing, so I'm trying to find out how to.
No worries, no worries. You know what? I think it's new for like a lot of people, so that's not an issue really.
Okay. Can you see now my slides?
Can you guys see the slides? Can you guys see the slides? I'm just checking up on the YouTube to see if they can see it. I can see it on the Skype, but that is something different. Let me see. Um, can you guys see the slides? Hello? No, not yet. Okay. Let's see what is happening and why we cannot see the slides. There is an alternative to this.
I share the screen, so.
Yeah, you shared the screen. I can see it on my Skype. So let me see if I can somehow work around this. Um, um,
Well, what you can do is you can go through the slides while I'm presenting.
Yes, I think that's a good idea. Okay, so
Yeah.
what? Yeah, if for those people who are here, hi guys. There's more people joining in. Just give me a second. I will try to load Dr. Achi's slides onto my system. See how it works. Technology. I think we're all learning how to do these things. It's an interesting thing. How can I turn off my video on Skype? Turn off video. I'm just trying to see if it will improve the bandwidth a little bit. Okay. screen is stuck. Okay, it should improve a little bit. Now YouTube is telling me to change the screen resolution, but it's not telling me how to do it. Okay, thank you very much, YouTube. Um, I think it is improving a little bit, slightly. Uh, yes, can you do the screen again? I think it's close to it now. Yeah, on YouTube we're good to go.
You want me to share the screen?
Yeah, share the screen again.
Okay. Can you see these slides right now?
Okay, there's a bit of a lag, but it is coming. If it doesn't come, I will get that onto the screen. So I think you can start the presentation, and I'll try to bring in the slides if there are issues while this happens.
Yeah. Okay. Can you make sure other people can see it? Because if it's not, I think it's better, Dr. Khan, if you can share the slides, because
yes,
that will bring the screen on, and then they can see the slides simultaneously.
I'll do that. I'll do that.
Okay.
So I've been taking some of my classes online, and this is an interesting period that we're all in, I guess, uh, because uh, overall, I think 70-80% of the time it's working okay, which I think it's a fairly decent amount, given that uh, we were really thrown into all of this. It was like a uh, people weren't really expecting something of this sort to happen to anyone. Um, okay, so you are almost ready to go.
Okay, that's fine. Just waiting to see the slides on your screen. So
yeah, I'll just put.
as soon as it comes on, I will start the presentation.
Okay. Too much processing going on in my system. I think my system doesn't like it. Actually, your screen seems to be working now, Achi.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's
right.
there's a lag of about, I think, 3 seconds, which is, I think, acceptable.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Let me share it.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you do that, I will also try to get the slides up on from my side, but in
Yeah.
the meanwhile.
No, that's fine. So let me know if you can see it from YouTube. So I'll start my discussion right now.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
All right. So welcome all for this presentation. I'll try to make it short as possible. So Dr. Khan asked me to give a little bit of insight from my PhD experience, and I would like to merge my PhD experience plus little bit information from my PhD, the content of my PhD into this presentation. So first of all, I will introduce myself. So the picture that you see is when I'm very little, where I didn't have any idea whatsoever what I'm going to do at that age. So right now, I've been in London for more than 10 years right now. I did my bachelor's and master's and my PhD in UK. And currently I'm working as a senior lecturer in business at Bloomsbury Institute, London. And I'm also working in Newcastle University. I recently got appointed to teach at Newcastle University as a marketing lecturer. So I would like to ask you a question. Obviously, we have been limited in this YouTube discussion to communicate with you, but just think about it. Why you decided to do a PhD? Well, I had my reasons why I decided to do a PhD, and those reasons will be quite different for you guys when you take individual. Your individual reasons will be very, very different in each other. But there's one fact in common in PhDs. Once you finish your PhD, you're going to be very unique. In the whole world population, there's only 1.1% has a PhD, who earned the PhD. I'm not talking about doctorates that you awarded, like that you get by doing charities, but when you genuinely do a doctorate, those people are like 1.1%. So once you finish a PhD, you join this population, this elite population. Well, that was not one of the reasons I decided to do a PhD. By that time, I didn't know even how many people had PhD. My reasons were started way before I came to United Kingdom, where my dad used to be to work in United Nations and care programs, where I'm from Sri Lanka, so we had nearly 30 years of war. And during this wartime, my dad used to work as a soil scientist who directly inputted his knowledge to plantations and agriculture of the Sri Lanka. So he used to take me in his travels to these borderline villages. And when I visited those villages, obviously you expect lots of poor people who's less fortunate. And I used to take these chocolates for these children until one day I met this special child where I gave him a chocolate, and he told me he rejected my chocolates, where all other children accepted them gladly because they hardly get to eat these kind of candies. And I asked him, well, why you're rejecting it? And he told me this story which changed my life, and that was the beginning that I decided, look, I need to do something to change the system. What he said was, sir, I don't need your chocolate, very politely. And can you please give me some books? Can you please help me out to get some shoes to go to school? And that hit me really, really hard. That was one of the turning points in my life. And of course, I helped him out. But then I approached my dad and I told my dad, Dad, I really need to do something. We are very privileged to be in Colombo, but these people who are wonderful, one of the most beautiful hearts I ever met, are suffering. So what can I do? So he said, look, son, you can do lots of things, but first you need to start your studies. You need to finish your studies. And I said, look, I want to finish my studies where I can achieve a doctorate. And he's like, well, you have all the opportunities in the world, so why don't you start with a bachelor's? And that's how I came to United Kingdom. That's how I finished my bachelor's, master's, and then immediately started my PhD, because I thought I can change the world by getting a PhD. So, but this is quite related to my story because I wanted to change the image of a destination. Where can anyone guess this destination? Dr. Khan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. All good.
Dr. Khan, give a guess. Where do you think this image is from?
Ooh, that looks really nice.
I know.
That does look really nice. Um,
Can you give a guess?
like that looks. Uh, I would presume. I don't know. Langkawi, Malaysia, or something like that. Maybe. Um
Not really close to it. It is from Arab area.
okay. Thailand, Indonesia, Bali.
Nah, nah. Okay. Now I'll show you another picture, right? Can you see this one?
Okay.
Okay. So if I tell you these both images are coming from the same destination, would you believe me?
Whoa. Okay. No, that is hard to believe because the
But
second picture,
I'm pretty sure you can guess this country.
the
I
second
mean,
picture looks like a war-torn country.
war-torn
Uh,
country. Like you might guess it might be Syria or Libya or somewhere close, isn't it?
yes, yes, exactly. That's what it looks
So,
like.
but you, your mental projection. If I say this my previous picture, can you see that previous picture right now?
Yeah.
The previous picture is from Libya. Would you believe me?
Probably not.
Exactly, because your mental projection right now is in this particular picture, isn't it? When I talk about Libya or Syria or Afghanistan, you don't see pretty pictures. You always see a devastated picture or at least ruins of buildings. So that was one of the main issues for me before I started my PhD, because now I'll take you to another picture. This is from Sri Lanka. This is our in Sri Lankan war. We finished in 2009, and after that, our war didn't finish yet. Our branding got really, really bad because international community and all other people whose visit in Sri Lanka had a different type of brand image for Sri Lanka. Especially when Channel 4. Can you see the Channel 4 picture over here?
Yeah.
See it? That's the same beach that we have, but it is not bloody. But they portrayed it as bloody because it was a bloody conflict. And that was one of the issues I faced before I was doing my PhD. I wanted to find solutions. I wanted to find answers for that. Why people portray Sri Lanka as a negative brand, where actually this is the same place. And they took the picture and they changed completely Sri Lankan brand image. So that was another reason that I wanted to start a PhD, to find out how can I find solutions for this thing. Because my Sri Lankan conflict is 29 years old. And it's a long-lasting conflict. And when you face a long-lasting conflict, you have long-lasting consequences of that. And after the conflict didn't finish because Sri Lanka had lots of human rights violation allegations and lots of public diplomacy related issues because Sri Lankan brand name was not recognized. So there's lots of adverse publicity. So my starting point of PhD is to find out who can save Sri Lanka. Simple as that. So when I started my proposal, of course they said, yeah, you have a PhD worthy topic. You can come for our initial interview where with my supervisors. So I went with this initial proposal, which was accepted in University of Northampton. And I was very happy to sat with my supervisors and they asked me, so what is your PhD about? What you trying to do? So I'm trying to find a person who can save Sri Lanka because we need to change the image of Sri Lanka. And then I can see my supervisors' faces. They were like stuck, like stunned. They were looking at me and then they took a deep breath, my first supervisor, and drew literally this image, not this image, this I downloaded from the internet, but it's very similar image to this. They drew a circle And then this supervisor said, son, I will tell you what is your PhD all about. And then she drew this circle and she said, you're still not even a part of this circle right now. The real PhD is if you can see the final image. I don't know if it's loaded or not. The final image, you can see the PhD, this little blob, which is trying to penetrate the circle. And then my supervisor said, look, you're not trying to find world peace from a PhD. You're not trying to find answers for Sri Lankan crisis from a PhD. What you're trying to do is just to contribute very tiny bit for practical knowledge or academia from PhD. But it is a starting point that you can use this thing to change the world, but that's not, PhD is not the answer for the world peace. PhD is not an answer for entire crisis that you're trying to figure out, but it is just a very tiny bit that you try to contribute for academia. And that changed my mind, because then I realized what is actually a PhD is about, what you're supposed to do from PhD. So my PhD journey, I have sort of summarized in here, okay? The first year of my PhD, I always compare. PhD is quite like you're trying to learn to drive a vehicle. If you remember how you learn to drive a vehicle, I can remember my memories. I started driving in my dad's laps when I was around 11 years old or 12 years old, very little. Okay, I felt like I was driving, but I was not really driving. My dad's hand was always in the steering wheel. So in the first year, you will have that feeling, like from your supervisors, because your supervisor is going to hold your hands, and you feel like, oh yeah, I'm doing a PhD, and you're so happy during the first year because that's what you're trying to do, but you won't understand what you're doing in your first year completely. You're just trying to find answers, even you don't know you're doing a PhD, but you act like you're doing a PhD, and it's very fun time, because every time someone asks you, so Achila, what you doing? I'm like, yeah, I'm doing a PhD. So it's good to say, but in the second year is the actual realization hits your mind. Yes, you're actually doing a PhD. Now you need to find answers for questions. You need to have proper literature. So that realization slowly going to sink in your second year. But from first year onwards, your supervisor is going to guide you and slowly give the steering wheel to you. And slowly, in the end of the second year, they're going to release their grip. And you're going to be in charge. And if you can see the picture, there's a girl screaming, that was me. Path is still foggy, but I was scared. I was scared to find my path, because I have now find my path by my own. And when it's the third year, you immediately realize there are 2 years gone. And you have this panic that now you have to submit. You can see the submission deadline. The path is much more going to get clear in the third year, but you will have lots of responsibilities in your third year. The final picture you can see over here is when you're very near to your submission. You're going to be confident. You're going to even tell your supervisors sometimes, look, I think this is correct because these are the facts I have. These are the literature I have. So you're going to take control of your PhD. At that point, your supervisors, if your supervisors are really good, they will respect you. In the first year, they're going to be after you, like your dad who's having the steering wheel in his hand. The final year is you have the steering wheel. Now you're the one who's guiding your PhD. And you're going to be really, really confident just before your Viva. So that was my path. But different people have different experiences. And it's actually a survival process. Because I survived this PhD by doing lots of things, and I'll share you few tips or few things that I did in order to survive in this PhD. The first thing that you need to do is in your first 2 years, just make sure, first year itself, make sure that you have crystal clear research questions. research objectives are crystal clear. There's no errors in those things. Okay. And the second bit that you need to know is develop your methodology crystal clear. You have no doubts about your methodology. Methodology can get changed slightly, but you need to know your game plan, because methodology is your game plan. Where are you going to collect your data? What kind of methodology that you're going to utilize? Because you're going to get grilled by that. From that in your Viva. So those two things I sorted out in my first year. Methodology got more developed into my second year, but research objectives were very, very clear during my first year's time. And make sure that you read a lot, because that's the one going to open up your mind. If you don't read, you won't be able to finish your PhD properly. So that's one of the advices I got from my supervisors. She said, look, you need to read every day. Read. You don't need to read full articles. Just read whatever the subject matter which is relevant for you, and read relevant PhD thesis to your topic.
How many? Can I ask you a quick question in this?
Yeah.
For your PhD thesis, how many articles do you think you would have gone through?
Oh my God, Dr. Khan. If I can remember that.
A rough ballpark figure.
Because it might be more than thousands, because I didn't manage to read everything in those articles.
Yes.
See, when I find a research topic, my PhD was about let's say power, legitimacy, and urgency of destination branding.
Right.
So when I let's say have a topic called power or branding, for example, I research everything related to conflict branding. I research everything related to destination branding, and skimmed through multiple articles at once, and then figured out what are the most relevant articles. Maybe it might be like 50 articles for branding, like that. So it's like selection process until you hit the goal. So I might have went through like 200 articles, but I managed to just select like 50 articles for my branding topic.
Mm-hmm.
So once I finish this thing, I'll show you my PhD thesis. I'll show you how many literature I have. It also depends on your PhD. My PhD was not very well researched area, so I had to read a lot. But despite of that fact, you need to read a lot. And you need to write from the beginning. From the first year, you need to write. Even if it's wrong, you need to write. And I did ask for lots of help from people. You can ask from Dr. Khan. Sometimes when I'm struggling, I even called him and I asked some help, if you can remember.
Yes.
So that's what you need to do. You need to ask for help. But one thing that you need to do is, you don't need to follow everything your colleagues are saying, because your journey is very unique to you. So yes, they will give you lots of help. Take the help that you can, but you don't need to take all the advices that they are giving, because that might not be sometimes relevant for you. For example, when I was doing my PhD, I was single. I had my parents in my country, Sri Lanka. I had a job, but sometimes some people's situations can be different. They might be married. So their PhD journey going to be different from individual perspectives. And also make sure that you're willing to sacrifice. You're going to sacrifice a lot. I sacrificed a lot. And also, one of the things that I learned is how to deal with the rejections. I have cried during my PhD. When I submitted my first draft of my proposal, my second supervisor said, "This is not good. You're doing too much work. You're teaching too much, and you're not paying attention for your PhD that much." And it hit me really hard, and I actually felt really bad. And that's a rejection. But my first supervisor really helped me out, and she said, "Look, you don't need to focus much more about negativity, but there are some truth about your there are some issues in your proposal. You can easily fix those things. So there will be lots of rejections, but next thing which leads is to your connection with your supervisors. So your supervisors play a big role, and you need to have a very good relationship with them. and you need to find out different ways to deal with them. Different supervisors will prompt their ideas in different manner, and then you need to find out how to deal with each supervisor, how to take their advices on board, and how to deal with those rejections that you're getting. And then there's another body of externals that you meet at the end, and you need to figure out how to deal with them as well. I'll tell you about externals during when I'm discussing about my Viva. You need to expect to face frustrations. You need to expect to face all the exhaustions from work, hard working. But also, you need to give some time for yourself. Have some food with your family. Have some day out with your family. Don't get stuck to your PhD all the time, because if you get stuck to your PhD, you will have depression, because it's very isolating process. I was very isolated. Thank God I had my family. I had lots of friends. So I went out with them sometimes just to relax myself. So those are the tips that I have. There are many tips. There's a few tips that I have to give you how to survive this very isolating journey. So as I get back to my PhD topic right now, so I had a massive task about destination branding and how to find solutions for this negative branding. That's how I started. And then I realized the Sri Lankan brand is very complex, just like any other brand. So in order to find answers, as I said, you need to have clear objectives. So I have created several objectives, which were refined throughout my first year. I can remember numerous times I'm going to my supervisors back and forth just to fix these objectives. I have asked help from Dr. Khan, some help. How can I write these smart objectives? I don't know. Every time I give these things to my supervisors, they come back to me and say, these are not very specific. These are very generic. So you need to create your objectives from generic to specific. That's one of the main challenges, and that's a different topic actually. So if you read my objectives, you can see the first thing I was trying to do was related to find out what actually going on in Sri Lanka about destination branding. Because if you don't know what's going on, you can't find solutions for that. And the second one is, when I read a lot, I realized government play a big role in Sri Lanka, or government play big roles in different destination branding, and policymakers are there, stakeholders are there. So I want to find out what role these stakeholders play. So that's my second one. And the third one is relationships. How relationships affect branding. That's my third objective, but I developed this objective in a bit of a later stage when I realized from the literature, relationships are one of the key to destination branding. And finally, I want to develop a framework to explain these relationships. So those objectives were developed over a year or 2 years' time. But first two objectives were developed within first year's time. Third objective developed over the time period slightly. And these are the two main theories I utilized for my thesis. One is Mitchell's power, legitimacy, and urgency framework. And the second one is Hankinson's network branding framework. So I wanted to find out these relationships, what relationships are in destination branding, more specifically to Sri Lanka. So when I read a lot, these are actually two different disciplines. So I want to combine these two disciplines together. One is from stakeholder discipline. The second one is from branding and stakeholder discipline. So I want to combine these two things together. But the issue was, initially I started with branding, and you can see it has slowly changed into stakeholders. Because that's all PhD about. Because sometimes you start with one point, and when you read a lot, you change your direction. But your objective's gonna be intact. But you slightly can change the direction. The same thing happened to me. I start with destination branding or rebranding, and then I realized you can't do a brand. You You can't do branding or rebranding without stakeholders, because branding is a complex phenomenon, and then you need stakeholders to do that. So I combine these two theoretical perspectives together to create my own sort of conceptual framework. And this framework was not tested, but this framework I use so I can collect information for my thesis. And you can see I realized from the literature that power, legitimacy, and urgency play a massive role in creating relationships in branding. And also I realized that power is related to resources and network positions. And if you have resources, you have power. And if you are in a bigger network position, let's say if you're a prime minister or president or minister, you have lots of power because you have access to resources. So that generates power. Once you have that power, you can have legitimacy. Once you have the legitimacy and power, you can trigger urgency. That was my initial framework. But you can see this framework has changed after you collect data, because you need to have a sort of a clear picture before you go and collect data to how to ask correct questions. To ask correct questions, you need to have very clear literature. That's why your literature review and your objectives are very important. In my research methodology, I use qualitative because I was talking about power, I was talking about legitimacy. So where I can see these people, they are the elites of the country, because most powerful people, most knowledgeable people, most resourceful people, most highest network oriented people, and most highly legitimate people you can find in higher places. So that's why I created elite interviews. So you can see these literature and your methodology play sort of hand in hand, interconnected. So this is why you need to create your methodology. So this is why you need to create your methodology. And that was my justification. They asked me in my bio, why you selected elite
They
interviews,
asked
why
me
you
in
can't
my
select normal interviews for normal people. So what I told them was, look, my
look,
thesis is
my
all
thesis
about
is
power.
all
If
about
I need to
power.
find
If I need to
solutions,
find
you need to go to the
solutions, you need
highest
to
power
go to the
source and
highest power
find
source
out
and find out
what they are
what
thinking
they
about
are
these
thinking about
powers.
these powers.
So that was my justification, because
So I collect data
elite
from
interviews
multiple
went
different
for
elites.
half a
Some
day,
elite interviews
because
went for half
about
a
our
day
countries.
because
If you
you know
say like
about
I'm
our
from the
countries.
United
If
Kingdom
you
and I'm
say like
doing this
I'm from the
research,
United Kingdom and
which
I'm
is
doing
going
this
to
research,
contribute to Sri Lanka, people
which
going
is
to be
going to
happy, and
contribute
they
to
would
Sri
like
Lanka,
to
people are
talk to
going to
you,
be happy and they
and they
would
would
like to talk
most
to you.
likely to
And they would most
likely to have their names in your
like
PhD
to
thesis.
have
Some
their names
ministers
in your
told me,
PhD thesis.
look, Sam,
Some
you can put
ministers
my name,
told me,
just
look,
put my name, don't
my
worry.
name,
I'm
just
like, I
put your
can't really
put.
do that because it has to be anonymous.
I can't
So
really do that.
so you collect data from different type of sources and you sort of find out themes from them. That's what I did in my PhD. So when I created that framework, based on that framework, I asked multiple different questions like how you think the power is generated in Sri Lanka. Do you think powerful people can contribute for destination branding, and how they contribute to destination branding? So when I collect data, let's say, after like 12 or 15 interviews, I got sort of overall picture of what they're thinking. Everyone was saying the Sri Lankan situation is unique, or it is quite unique, and it can be related to all the developing countries. The highest power sources are generating from authorities. And then you have elite businessmen or elite stakeholders. Even though people's power is much more higher, they don't realize that because they've been told that you should be in the bottom of the pyramid. Do you understand? And then the urgency, if you can see the figure 7.1, generate only when elites require power. You can see this agency is generating during the election times. Might be quite similar in Pakistan, isn't it, Dr. Khan?
Yes.
The urgency generates when there's a threat or an opportunity for the stakeholders' power, urgency generates when there's a threat or an opportunity for the legitimacy of the stakeholders. So this pyramid that you can see in 6.1 get upside down when there's an election, because election creates an opportunity and a threat. So that's the whole thing I discovered in my PhD. There's much more discoveries in my PhD, but these are the essence that I discovered in PhD. So after this discovery, this was the aha moment, because everyone was talking about this thing in Sri Lanka and they keep telling. Then I asked them, how can we change this thing? They were like, this has been practiced for many years, more than 70 years. So in order to change this is embedded into the system. So to change this culture, it's gonna take a long time. And it's gonna take generations to change this culture from these kind of developing destinations. And once I figured these out, then obviously I had my Viva. Before I went for my Viva, I read all the documentations produced by Professor Nigel Morgan. Because Dr. Nigel Morgan was my PhD Viva examiner. And when you have your examiner selected, what you have to do is you have to make sure that you have referred your examiner's articles. And I have used lots of articles from my examiner. That's why I selected my examiner as Professor Nigel Morgan. He was the sort of the key figure in destination marketing. And just before Viva, and you have this enormous stress to read your thesis correctly. And then I might have read my thesis like 10, 20 times. And then you can see in my thesis, you have these posted notes. And I had all these posted notes. And all the journals that I have listed, key journals that I have listed, the key essence from those journals and how I contribute to those journals to my PhD. And I had a very clear idea about the methodology. Don't expect similar kind of discipline come to your Viva. You might expect different kind of discipline people. Because, for example, I had a person from social science discipline. And that lady specifically asked from me, so what is this positionality about? Thank God I had a chapter from positionality. And in my PhD, I got only corrections for my positionality. So they were very minor corrections. And that came from the second invigilator, the second examiner. So you might be grilled from different angles. You might be grilled from methodological aspects. So you need to have those answers ready why you selected those methodology. Because if you're coming from if that examiners are coming from, let's say, quantitative methodology, they might grill you why you didn't use that. So you should have your answers ready. And once you have your corrections ready, you might have major corrections to minor corrections. Very unlikely, once you have your Viva pass, very unlikely you will fail your PhD, because you will have about 1 month to 6 months of corrections or 1 year of corrections. Those are the major corrections. Very unlikely people fail at that stage. So don't worry if you go until the Viva stage, and if you pass the Viva, very, very likely you will get your PhD, which I did. And I got my PhD last year. So that was my journey. I hope that you enjoyed
Thank you very much.
this whole discussion. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Khan.
What we will do now, I think, is we will, for those people who are interested in the Q&As, I think we'll set up like a meeting, a group meeting.
Yeah,
on which is better for you, Skype or Zoom?
Skype is better, isn't it? Skype is already here, so all I need to do is Zoom. I can just you can start a meeting and you can add me. Anything is fine by me.
Okay.
That's fine.
So I will just create a link on one of these tools, and then I will add, because I know there's a few people who've got some questions here, and I'll send these guys the link to that meeting.
All right.
So very interesting, though. You know, it kind of reminded me of my own PhD process. It kind of the whole thing replays as you're talking about these things. You know, the whole process replays. So yeah,
And
it's an
it is
interesting.
worth it, isn't it? Like when you look back your thesis, when you see your thesis, that printed copy, you feel proud, and then you know it's for your entire lifetime. All the blood, sweat, and tears that you had for all
Exactly.
these more than 3 years, gonna play a big role in future.
Um, you know, like this year it was my 10 years of completion of the PhD. So I can't believe
Wow.
10 years have gone by, but
Yeah,
it feels like yesterday. You know, it's something. It's
yeah,
because you know you go through this process for such a long time. Um,
yeah, yeah.
so it's
And I,
something that remains fresh in your mind. In fact, I was talking to my dad the other day, and my dad has
yeah,
done his PhD from Harvard. Uh,
yeah,
so obviously he did it a long time ago. Uh, but yeah, even for him, you know, he still remembers it as if it was yesterday.
yeah,
So those of you who are online, live on YouTube, and you would like to ask questions, here's a link to the Zoom meeting. Click on that Zoom meeting and join us on Zoom. I'm going to send the link to Dr. Achi here on the Skype chat, uh, so you can come on down on this as well. Did you get the link?
yeah. I got the link.
Okay, so we'll switch over to the Zoom meeting, and we'll continue the Q and A's over there.